The alien vessel drifted in the endless void, its scanners pulsing with silent precision as they bathed the human warship in waves of probing energy. For decades, the Vurian scout fleet had monitored the strange, unpredictable species called humanity. They had studied their chaotic wars, their reckless expansion, their stubborn refusal to submit to the galactic order. To the Varians, humans had always been curiosities, creatures defined by impulsiveness, too savage and emotional to ever threaten the great empires of the stars. They remembered when humans still fought with crude tools of destruction, ballistic projectiles, chemical explosives, primitive nuclear warheads. The Varians had laughed at their feeble attempts to mimic true weapons of power. To civilizations that bent space itself and wielded beams capable of melting continents, humanity was little more than a violent child. But the laughter had long since died. As the scanners fed back their readings of the massive ship floating before them, terror began to grip the Vurian crew. One officer's crest of spines flattened in alarm, his voice shaking. "Hi, Captain. You need to see this." Zorth, commander of the scout vessel, stepped forward. His yellow eyes narrowed as streams of data flickered across the displays. At first, his mind rejected what he was seeing. It couldn't be real. But as the truth settled in, a cold dread ran through his bones. The human ship bore the designation Indomitable. It was not a vessel. It was a fortress, a nightmare clad in steel and firepower. Every principle of warfare the Varians knew was mocked by its construction. Its hull was not built from common metals, but from exotic composites engineered to absorb and dissipate energy strikes. Its armor was so thick it bordered on madness, as though the humans had expected to endure sieges beyond imagination. Then came the weapon systems. Zorth's throat tightened as his eyes moved across the analysis. The Indomitable bristled with death. Railguns, powerful enough to hurl solid slugs at near-relativistic speeds. Plasma lances capable of cutting through the strongest hulls in seconds. And missiles, thousands of them, armed with warheads that did not simply detonate but warped the fabric of space itself, collapsing shields and armor as though they were paper. One officer's skin paled to a sickly gray. "This isn't a warship, High Captain," he whispered. "It's a nightmare given form." And still, the data revealed worse. Secondary systems indicated weapons meant not just to destroy ships, but to annihilate the very crews inside them. Autonomous drones equipped with monomolecular blades and hacking protocols. Nanite swarms engineered to dissolve both flesh and metal. And then the most chilling entry of all, exot troopers. Fallen human soldiers reforged into cybernetic monstrosities, bodies augmented with such obscene firepower that they could level cities on their own. Zorth's spines stiffened in horror. Humans had always fought like cornered beasts. Ruthless, adaptive, merciless. They had never known restraint. And now, they had forged a vessel that embodied this feral philosophy. "The Galactic Union debated for centuries," Zorth muttered, his voice low, "to integrate humanity or to destroy them before they became a threat." He clenched his claws against the command console. "It seems we waited too long." For generations, the Union had dismissed humanity as dangerous but ultimately insignificant. That illusion was now shattered. The Indomitable was proof. The humans had been preparing for war, and now they were ready. "Cut scanners," Zorth commanded sharply. "Power down all weapons. Send word to the homeworld." "What message, Captain?" one officer asked nervously. Zorth's eyes lingered on the monstrous warship outside. "Tell them this: we must never provoke the humans." Silence engulfed the bridge. The crew obeyed without hesitation, shutting down systems, hoping to fade into invisibility. But it was too late. The Indomitable stirred. A shimmer of energy rippled across its armored hide, and before Zorth could react, a transmission broke through their comms. The voice that followed was cold, mechanical, yet undeniably human. "Unidentified vessel. You have been scanning a Terran warship. State your purpose immediately." The Vurian crew froze. Their stealth systems should have cloaked them perfectly. No species had ever pierced their concealment. No one until now. Zorth felt the truth like a blade at his throat. If they answered wrongly, if they made even a single misstep, the Indomitable would annihilate them. He forced his spines to flatten, breathing deep. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Do not show hostility. Under any circumstances." The comms crackled as the line opened. "This is High Captain Zorth of the Vurian Exploration Fleet," he said with measured calm. "We mean no harm. We were merely observing." A long pause followed. Then the human voice returned, this time with a mocking edge. "Observing, huh? Let me guess, you thought we wouldn't notice. Thought your fancy cloaking tech made you invisible." Zortha's stomach twisted. The humans had not only detected them, they had seen through their best technology with ease. "That was not our intention," Zorth lied smoothly. "We have monitored many civilizations across this sector. Yours is simply of interest." Again silence. Then their instruments screamed with warnings. The Indomitable was powering up. Its engines roared to life with unnatural energy, weapons shifting into combat readiness. Dozens of targeting locks painted their ship. Every escape vector, every possible maneuver was already calculated. If the humans chose to fire, the Varians would die before they could even blink. The voice came once more, low and final. "I suggest you pick another civilization to spy on." Zortha's jaw clenched at the human's words. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he forced himself to stay calm. His species valued pride, but in this moment, survival demanded humility. "Understood," he replied carefully. "We will depart immediately." For a long, chilling moment there was only silence. Then the human voice returned, softer, though still carrying an edge of command. "Good choice. Now run along, little scout. And next time, remember who owns this sector." The transmission cut. "Jump engines!" Zorth barked. "Now!" The Vurian vessel spun away, activating its drive. Space folded around them, and in a flash of light, they were gone. Only when the stars stretched into elongated streaks did the crew finally exhale. But the relief Zorth expected never came. His chest felt heavier, his claws tapping anxiously against the chair. Humanity was not merely dangerous, they were something else entirely. Something the galaxy was not prepared to face. The ship emerged from hyperspace, far from the human warship. Yet the weight in the air lingered. Zorth straightened and turned to his communications officer. "Send an encrypted transmission to High Command," he ordered. The officer hesitated. "What shall I tell them?" Zortha's voice was low, but firm. "The truth. That the humans are not what we thought they were." The message was dispatched across the stars. Afterward, the bridge remained unervingly silent. Officers exchanged glances, checking sensors again and again, as if expecting the Indomitable to tear through reality and appear behind them. Zorth couldn't shake the same fear. What if the humans weren't simply defending their borders? What if they were hunting? Hours passed before the response came. Zortha's heart sank as he read the order. "You are commanded to report directly to the War Council. Cease all other missions. Humanity must be reevaluated." The War Council. Zortha's blood chilled. The Dominion's greatest leaders gathered only when a threat of extinction loomed. The last time they had convened in full was during the rise of the UAR hive, a parasitic species that devoured entire star systems. The galaxy had united to burn them from existence. And now the humans were being placed in the same category. "Prepare for another jump," Zorth said grimly. The ship powered up again, engines humming. Zortha's gaze drifted to the stars beyond the viewport. His people had long prided themselves on their mastery of strategy, their disciplined warfare. For centuries, the Varians had believed themselves the hunters. But after what he had witnessed, Zorth no longer felt like a predator. For the first time in his life, he felt like prey. The twin suns of the Vurian capital, Zaltarath, cast their golden light across obsidian towers that stretched into the heavens. The scout ship descended into the military command complex, a fortress of black steel adorned with banners of conquest. Zorth marched through its grand halls, flanked by honor guards. The air was heavy with tension. Normally, only the most powerful warlords stood before the War Council. That he, a scout captain, had been summoned meant one thing: fear. The great chamber doors opened, revealing 13 warlords seated in a vast circle. At the center stood Grand Warlord Torval, scarred from centuries of battle, his piercing golden eyes fixed on Zorth. "You have seen something," Torval rumbled, his voice carrying the weight of command. "Something that even you cannot mask." Zorth stepped forward, spine stiffened. "I have, Grand Warlord, and I bring grave news." He activated the holoprojector. The scans of the Indomitable shimmered into the air, its monstrous silhouette spinning slowly before the council. A murmur of unease spread among the warlords as the data scrolled across their vision. "This," Zorth declared, "is a human warship, a single vessel, and yet it possesses armor that absorbs energy, weapons that can bypass shielding, and technologies designed not merely to destroy ships but to eradicate entire crews. Even before destruction, their enemies would already be dead." A wave of disbelief rippled through the chamber. One warlord, famed for his brutal conquests, scoffed. "Absurd. Humanity is young. Their weapons are crude. They lack the discipline to challenge our fleets." Zortha's gaze sharpened. "Then answer me this. How did they pierce our stealth fields? How did they lock their weapons before we even realized we were detected?" The warlord faltered, but Zorth pressed on. "They did not destroy us. They let us leave. Do you know what that means?" His voice hardened. "That they are not just strong. They are confident. They knew they could annihilate us, and yet chose restraint. That is what makes them terrifying, because it means they are waiting for something." The chamber fell silent. Even Torval's golden eyes darkened with thought. For the first time in Vurian history, the War Council gave no orders. No calls for war. No strategies for conquest. For the first time, they had encountered an enemy they did not know how to defeat. And worst of all, the humans already knew. The council chamber emptied slowly, but unease lingered like the scent of blood after battle. Zorth remained standing before the vast war table, his claws pressed against its cool surface. Grand Warlord Torval had not spoken since the debate ended. His golden eyes were locked on the hologram of the human warship, glowing like an omen in the chamber's dim light. At last, Torval exhaled through flared nostrils. "You believe they are preparing for war?" Zorth straightened. "I believe they are preparing for something far worse." "Explain," Torval demanded, his tone sharp as a blade. Zorth adjusted the holoprojector. The image shifted, revealing the Indomitable's power core, its strange fluctuations flickering like something alive. "This ship was not built for conquest alone," Zorth said. "It was built for survival. Its redundant systems, its absurdly thick armor, its overwhelming firepower, all of it points to one conclusion. Humanity expects to face an enemy that will bring unimaginable force against them. They are not preparing for us. They are preparing for something else." Torval's expression hardened. "You mean to say they are designing warships to fight a foe greater than the Dominion?" "Yes," Zorth replied grimly. "And whatever that enemy is, they are already preparing for it." The council chamber buzzed with muted whispers, but Torval silenced them with a gesture, his gaze fixed on Zorth, piercing and unyielding. "You are hereby tasked with a new mission, High Captain," Torval said slowly. "You will go deeper into human-controlled space. You will find out what they fear." Zorth bowed his head slightly. "As you command." Far away, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Elias Grant stood in his command chamber. Around him, his officers worked in silence, reviewing sensor logs of the recent Vurian encounter. Some questioned why they had let the alien vessel go. Grant knew the answer. "They're starting to ask questions," his first officer murmured. Grant folded his arms, eyes narrowing at the data screens. "Let them." The officer hesitated. "Do you think they suspect?" Grant's jaw tightened. His gaze flicked to sealed files marked with the highest classification. Reports filled with horrors no other species had seen. "They'll find out soon enough," he muttered. Humanity had kept its secret for decades, but time was running short. The Varians had seen too much, and once others learned the truth, the fragile balance of the galaxy would shatter. Days later, Zorth sat alone in his private chamber aboard the warship Sovereign Wrath. Streams of encrypted intelligence reports scrolled before him, full access granted by the War Council itself. For hours he sifted through files on human fleets, colonies, and military structures. The more he read, the more unsettled he became. The humans' technological growth had accelerated unnaturally fast. In less than half a century, they had advanced from crude defenses to ships that rivaled the greatest powers of the Union. Their fleets grew by the thousands, their factories churned out war machines at impossible speeds. Yet despite this expansion, their borders remained fixed. The realization struck Zorth like a blade. Every spacefaring race followed the same pattern. Expand, claim, conquer, repeat. But not the humans. They did not spread outward. They built fortresses, orbital defenses, vast fleets that patrolled but did not invade. They were waiting. Zorth's claws tapped nervously against the console. If humanity was preparing for war, it should have been directed at the Dominion or one of the other empires. But no evidence suggested such intent. Their eyes were fixed elsewhere. A notification blinked on his console, an intercepted file from the Dominion's deep space sensors. Zorth opened it. What he saw froze his blood. The image showed a graveyard, a wreckage field in an uncharted region, far beyond human-controlled space. Shattered ships drifted through the void, hulking structures larger than any dreadnought ever recorded. They bore no resemblance to known designs. Angular hulls twisted beyond recognition. The scars of their destruction were unlike anything Zorth had seen. Not from plasma, not from railguns. Something had torn them apart on a molecular level. More disturbing still, faint energy signals flickered within the debris. Weak but alive. Zorth's chest tightened. Something survived. And then the truth struck him with merciless clarity. The Indomitable had not been built to fight the Dominion. It had been built for this. Humanity had known all along. The warship was not a threat to other empires, it was a warning. Driven by grim resolve, Zorth led his vessel deep into human space. There, he was granted an audience once more with Captain Elias Grant. The human stood tall in the dim light of his command chamber, eyes cool and calculating. "You came back," Grant said evenly. Zorth's spines bristled, but he forced his voice steady. "I have seen the wreckage. I know what you are building for. You have been hiding something from the galaxy." The room fell silent. Officers exchanged wary glances. Grant's eyes narrowed. Then he gave a slow nod. "You want answers," he said. "Fine. But once I tell you the truth, there's no going back." Zorth swallowed hard. "I understand." Grant leaned forward, his voice a quiet growl. "Then let me tell you about the things in the dark.